What's up, War Report family? You know what it is. It's me, C-Dub, joined by B Will. Giving y'all
Mhm.
some special time, man. This is a special time for us to gather and discuss the latest and greatest regarding Auburn sports, Auburn football. Auburn hires a new offensive coordinator. Austin Davis becomes Auburn's latest OC, the second under Brian Harsin, hired from the Seattle Seahawks. This guy has been coaching. I think he completed his third year of coaching in the NFL, I believe, and I think
Second,
it was his
second
second
as QB
year,
coach. Yeah.
second as QB coach. So yeah, he started off as like an assistant, and then he was
Mhm.
promoted a year later to the quarterbacks coach, and now he is Auburn's latest OC. B. Will, what's your thoughts on this,
Mhm.
man? This has been kind of brewing for a minute. People have been talking. It was made official today. How you feel about it?
I'm fine with it if he fits into the plan. Obviously, we didn't get anybody who was too big a name or personality or had a lot of cachet, and that's fine because football is a game that a lot of people on different levels know. So if this guy knows the game, if he knows how to play the position, if he understands offense, then it's a great hire. Now, do we have any idea if he is going to be good at any of those things? No. I think it does bode well that he is on Pete Carroll's staff because I'm going to give Pete Carroll somebody who has won on both the college and the pro level, and very few people can say they've done that. Um, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt as far as coaching and identifying coaching talent because he is a great coach himself. So, have to assume that you're not going to be on Pete Carroll's staff if you're a bum. So,
Right.
I'm going to defer to Pete Carroll. I'm going to defer to Brian Harsin, who reportedly had a conversation with Pete Carroll about hiring Austin Davis and got a big um, stamp of endorsement, is what Austin Davis got from Pete Carroll. And I don't know how that's a bad thing. It seems to fit into the pattern or what Harsin wants to build, which is we want to get you, the player, to the NFL. We want to develop you and empower you to play your best. And that means developing NFL skills, NFL work habits, NFL schemes. And that is a huge get because you can't always just rely on sexy names to come through your program. That's not realistic. Hopefully you have enough success so that the names at your program become sexy names
Right.
and they're going to leave. But if you as a coach are known for hiring people who are good at what they do and fundamentally sound, schematically sound, then this has to be the beginning of that. Hopefully, this is the beginning of that. And the pipeline of from college to the NFL is what they can sell with this hire, just like with Eason. I think
Right.
that's a great, hey, here's somebody who just came from up top to show you what you're going to be doing at the next level. Make a stop through here. We'll get you to the next step. So I think it's a good sell that way. And looking forward to see what they do.
So you mentioned him working under Pete Carroll, that Pete Carroll just doesn't hire anyone. Pete Carroll actually not only hired this guy, but had some really positive remarks to make about Austin Davis. I mean, he didn't have to say this at all, right?
Right.
He could have just wished him well and kept it moving. But
Right.
he referred to him as being one of the bright minds in the game and has kind of talked about the fact that there are other people within the organization, the offensive coordinator, Russell Wilson, who also gave some positive remarks about him as well. What do you think it says about this guy who really and truly, let's be honest, he hasn't been coaching long at all.
Right.
But for guys who like Pete Carroll, who's been in the business for a minute, he got a lot of positive remarks from his former offensive coordinator at Southern Miss, Larry Fedora, actually gave him a lot of kudos and felt like this was a great hire. And they mentioned his work ethic. How
Right.
do you think that fits culture wise with what Brian Harsin has been preaching all year long?
Well, the number one thing is that he is an age where he is not that far out of the college game himself. And that's important. That's
Yeah.
important because you need to be able to sell people, here's what I want to do with you. And here's what I know you're up against. Looking at defenses. I mean, some quarterback coaches, if they're old enough, then I mean, QB like Mike Bobo. Mike
Right.
Bobo, the offense was definitely a late 80s, early 90s offense. And don't get me wrong, he's changed some since his years at Georgia. But Mike Bobo, very often we questioned what he was going for, what he was trying to do. And
Right.
now you've got a guy who Austin Davis is going to be young enough to say, no, I know exactly what you're up against. Let me tell you what you're going to see next year in the league. Defenses are going to be doing this. Let me put you on some concepts right now that are going to be great for you when you make this leap. And on top of that, he is young and relatable. And I think that is what has made a world of difference for Coach Eason on the D line. Young, relatable coaches. It's why we're doing so well at running back. It's why we were doing so well at linebacker under T. Will. Young, relatable coaches, very close in age to the guys they will be recruiting and coaching is always a win. That's always a benefit. So I am excited that they're getting somebody of that profile. It's not that there aren't other good minds around there, like Dan Mullen. Everybody with Dan Mullen, yeah, he knows offense. He's good at offense. We get it. But how long would he have been here? How long would he have been able to really sell you that he can get you to the next level? Because sure, he has a couple guys who have, but then the last stop he had two guys at the same time, and he couldn't get much out of either one of them. So
Right.
this hire solves a couple of problems in one. One is that recruiting at the quarterback position for Auburn for the last 6 years has been suspect. It's been less than stellar. You would have to question if Bo Nix wasn't a legacy, would he have even come here in the first place?
Right.
I have no idea that I have no doubt that we have not been an attractive stop for quarterbacks for a very long time. Matter of fact, everybody significant was transfer. Bo was not, but he was legacy. When was the last time we actually pulled somebody in and said, they've got a good track record with quarterbacks, they're going to get me to the league, that offense is going to definitely be exactly what I need to make a leap up? We haven't been able to sell that. So
Right.
Harsin and Davis now get the opportunity to build what should be a positive, pro-friendly legacy of quarterback play, so that the next time we are competing for an A1 guy, we actually have a chance at getting him. We haven't had that chance in, I don't know, man. I couldn't tell you when the last time is we were a top 3 quarterback in the class and we actually had a shot at him. We may have thought we had a shot at him, but it's been a really, really long time. They solved that problem with recruits. And also, again, I'm always, like I said, he's young enough. He knows what they're going to see. He knows how they feel. He's close enough to their age to be able to sell them on what needs to be done here. So I think that's a really big win.
And I like the fact that because he hasn't been coaching long and he's young, I think that we got some stability on that side of the ball as well. Again, if you
Yeah.
bring in a big name to the point you mentioned earlier, how long is this person going to stick around? Because if they're that good, chances are other programs are looking at that person either from the NFL or at college. They want you to be a head coach. Like that's the next step in your trajectory. So
Right.
to get a guy who's unproven, who's pretty much an unknown, here's an opportunity for him to make a name for himself and to really bring some stability to that side. Again, I would like to see someone stay as an offensive coordinator longer than a year. It would be refreshing
Right.
because that hasn't happened in quite some time. And these
Right.
guys need to, in order for Harsin to build a foundation and build his system, he's going to need someone who's going to be here longer than a year, longer than 2 years, because these guys, in order for them to be confident in what they're doing, the system can't keep changing up. So
Right.
I like the fact that he's got someone young who's knowledgeable, who's a hard worker, who can relate to kids. I think it checks a lot of boxes, even though people weren't aware of who this guy was. So I'm happy about that. Eugenia,
Sure.
Akira, appreciate you. We see some of you guys in the comment section, man, and thanks for hanging out with us, man. I know it's a bit unexpected, but we just got to come in here and talk ball with you guys in the off season whenever there's breaking news. He asked, do you think this indicates that Harsin will be more involved in play calling? I think that's been the word for a minute that's been thrown around, or the rumor that's been thrown for a minute. But with a guy who doesn't have experience calling plays in a game, B. Will, is it a good chance that this is what we see next fall? Harsin calling the plays with the new offensive coordinator working with QB development and designing the offense or building the game plan throughout the week.
Well, I think that him coming down to the college level is pretty telling as far as him developing as a coach. I don't think you step down unless you can get more responsibility and build your resume, because
Sure.
otherwise you would just wait your turn in the pros, because the pros is the top level. So you step down to get more on your plate and to get more experience. So if Harsin is going to be, we know Harsin's an offensive guy, play quarterback, coach quarterback, call plays. So I think what we can be pretty certain of, and of course, nobody has talked to Harsin or Austin Davis about this, but I think it's pretty fair to say Austin Davis will be improved and he will be developed as a coach. So if you're a QB coach, he's taking an OC position, not just to let somebody else call the plays for the entire time. Maybe it's a transitional thing. Maybe it's year one, they come up with a playbook together and they go over what they want the quarterback to be here at Auburn in the system. And then year two, he turns over the play calling. I'm not sure if it could happen over the course of spring and fall camp. Honestly, I don't know. I guess Harsin will let us know that. And I'm sure everybody's going to ask that the minute we step into spring practices and Davis is on campus. Okay, is he going to call plays? So I imagine we'll know pretty soon. But I would imagine that the goal is to get Austin Davis to be a full-fledged OC, including play calling. How quickly that happens, who knows?
Mike G, same to you, man. What are your thoughts about what's been rumored in terms of Harsin calling plays? And does hiring a guy who has not had experience doing that indicates that that's the plan in 2022?
Yeah, I think I've said it before. I'll say it again. I think this coach he's coaching for his Auburn not life next year, and I think he's going to make sure that this happens the way he designs it. The best way to do that, ensure that, is to call plays, right? And then hopefully what Austin Davis will help him do is, I think his primary goal is going to be quarterback tutelage, right? He's going to tutor quarterbacks and help Harsin come up with play designs within his own system that utilize those quarterback strengths. So, this does smell. You hire somebody who has not called plays before,
right?
So he's going to have to be heavily involved, or this is a huge roll of the dice,
right?
That in the year where you need a lot of production out of your offensive coordinator, that you're turning play calling over to somebody who's never called plays before. I think it's a clear indication that he plans on being very heavily involved in that aspect, at least initially.
Right.
So, and I think Austin Davis wants to be set up to succeed as well, too. So I doubt he's clamoring for that responsibility right now. So if it works in year one, maybe he starts to turn a little bit more of that responsibility over to Austin Davis. But I still like the hire. I just think we made a big ado about this multiple offense, and now we're actually going to get to see it, because last year was not it.
Sure. I also, too, on to that point, Mike G, I think what's going to be interesting to see, and we won't know this, but what will determine how quickly he moves up to where he's calling the plays is he has to protect Harsin's blind spot. When he's calling the plays, he has to be seeing the field and suggesting plays that's actually working for Harsin, should Harsin takes his advice, thus earning Harsin's trust for when he gets ready to turn the play calling duties over to this guy.
Correct.
This is someone who's actually showing and growing in his role that, hey, I'm seeing what you're seeing. I'm actually seeing things you aren't seeing. So you can trust me moving forward to take this responsibility, and you can kind of revert back to being the CEO, knowing that your offense is in good hands. So It's really up to Austin Davis to determine just how he excels in year one, just doing what Harsin is asking him to do. Corey Weber asks a question. Appreciate the super chat. How long before this hire pays dividends on QB recruiting? Apologies have already asked, and I heard some people said on IG he's already recruiting on IG and recruiting for Auburn. So, B. Will, I'll start with you first with this question.
You know what? I do not think, I have no reason to think this. Nobody has told us anything. I would imagine that for as long as you are not officially the OC, you could get in touch with somebody and say, hey, some stuff's about to happen. Maybe you want to meet me there. Let's talk about what's possible. Maybe send him a text, because if the kid's in the portal and you are still employed by the Seattle Seahawks, you're not tampering with another team's player. You're in the pros. And especially with the strategic move that it was to bring Trevon Reed on staff, now we understand, as it was discussed in a couple places, Trevon Reed was on staff because they had not hired an OC yet. So that was a strategic move. Let one of your strongest, newest, hungriest staff members do a lot of good recruiting, which he's good at, and help you land some very good defensive talent and offensive talent out of for early signing day. But also, if the guy you want to hire, if you have an understanding but nobody has signed any papers, oh yeah. Now I don't know, but I'm saying that would be genius. And I would love it if he has already reached out to some targets that we have at QB, whether they're 2023 quarterbacks or people in the portal right now. I know Keaton Slovis. Yeah, that guy right there. And to be fair, now, let's be clear here. We got to go get Slovis, because I think Dede is that guy. I have been on that train since last spring, and I'm going to still be on that train until we see him on the field getting meaningful reps. Until he proves that he's not, I am on the Dede train until I see him go out there and look nothing like the guy that we think he is. And then I might change my position. But I don't think we need Keaton Slovis. I wonder what the advantage is to Keaton Slovis if the playbook's brand new for everybody. Everything is brand new about the school. You could say competition, but we know Finley's already here. We know he's not leaving. We know Dede's here. He's not leaving. And we know Holden Griner signed knowing exactly who would be here. He thought there were 3 quarterbacks in front of him, and he still signed here. So we don't have any. We've got plenty of competition, I guess is what I'm saying. There's plenty of competition in that room. You get Keaton Slovis if you think he is actually better than the guys on your roster. I mean, you don't fill in your quarterback room with walk-ons. You need guys to actually compete, who have a chance at beating you at your job. We don't know that anybody in the room is a definite. I don't know if Keaton Slovis is a definite. I watched no USC football this year because they were irrelevant. They've been irrelevant for, I don't know, since they played Penn State in that Rose Bowl like 4 or 5 years ago.
It's something about firing your coach like 2 or 3 games into the season. People stop watching because
he started the year as a Heisman candidate, though. Slovis did.
What happened? He got hurt.
So he was on everybody's radar to start the season, right? So, like, I mean, it's not like he's a nobody just because of the squad he was playing on. Like, you know, a lot of people expect him to do something great this year. I just think, I think if you go out and get Slovis, it reeks of desperation. In this next season, and I know we want competition and all that stuff, but quite honestly, if you want to improve recruiting, show the guys that you know what to do with the guys that you got. Right, you've got the winningest quarterback in Texas high school football history on campus right now.
Right,
you know, if he leaves Auburn and we never get a chance to see what he can do, it's a bad look.
Yeah,
despite everything that's happened, right? You know, you've got Finley, who, say what you want. I'm gonna be in the camp that for right now, I just don't think he's gotten a fair shake here. You know, these first 2 games, it was kind of bull how he got thrown in. And then he suffered from the same bad play calling that everybody suffered from. So we've had 2 starts at Auburn to judge Finley's ceiling. And, you know, Ike and I kind of talked about this off camera about, you know, with our last quarterback, his ceiling wasn't the issue. It was his floor.
Right.
His floor seemed just as low as it was his freshman year at times. Right. And what we need to start to do with these quarterbacks is we need a safer floor, a floor that won't cost us the game. And that's what we're hoping, you know, a quarterback tutor like Austin Davis will bring to this system is we can have a safe floor for quarterbacks. So if you're starting, we know you'll meet this minimum level of production.
Right.
Right. And you'll probably see a lot less true freshmen start in that system because they're going to be unable to meet that minimum, that mandatory minimum. And if we do see a true freshman, then
he's special.
He's really special.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I think a lot of people, screamed the offseason, when I had my thoughts about this, is that you don't trust the coaches. You don't trust the coaches. I'm like, you blame me? I mean, look at what we've seen. We fired 2 coaches. So, excuse me if I'm a little gun shy on saying yes, I trust these coaches, but like, I mean, that's where I'm at about it. I don't know, man. I think Finley deserves this bowl game and a spring. And if he loses the quarterback battle this spring, then I'll trust the coaches.
Well, let me ask you guys this: how much when you talk about evaluation, how much is that going to change in year 2, even though you have a new offensive coordinator and a new QB coach? Your head coach still knows everyone in that room.
Mm-hmm.
So to what degree, because the hope is that the evaluation of these quarterbacks changes in year 2 as it opposes to year 1, because to your point, not everyone got a fair shake. The hope is that in year 2, everyone does get a fair shake, right? So to what degree does that act? Do you think that, I mean, we can hope, but to what degree does that occur? Because that is going to determine if the right guy gets onto the field.
Yeah. So I agree with you 100%. And looking at the moves that were made in year 1, we wondered if Bobo was a Harsin guy. We wondered how much power Bobo had to choose who got on the field. We have wondered amongst ourselves, and the fan base have wondered, was it predetermined who was going to get the starting reps at QB? Predetermined because of experience, because of maybe some mild tampering, and that's nothing confirmed, but that's just what we have heard and what we think. So now I think with him getting rid of Bobo, I think part of that and Bo transferring has been nobody's going to get promised anything. And this is going to go how I want it to go. And the leaning towards experience that we saw at the quarterback position and at the wide receiver position, we feel like that was detrimental to our success in year 1. That there may have been people who had a better chance to have a higher ceiling on the field than the guys we saw getting on the field. Now, we don't know how much of that was the position coaches, the cultural standard not being met, or again, some other factors that may have contributed to that. What I think the changes in the offseason so far suggest is that we're not going to have those same problems anymore for multiple reasons. Because now, if the culture has been set, everybody who is here is saying, okay, I get what the culture is. I'm still on board. That's number 1. So you're not going to have any of those weird, I guess I'll wait it out year 1 because I don't want to leave Auburn because it's a good program. But obviously there were some guys who didn't know what their role was going to be. Over the course of the season, it happened, and they didn't like the way it played out, so they left. Shivers is the main example. Shivers' use declined over the course of the season. Now, he could have said, all right, I'll give you a year and see what it's going to be, but he didn't like it, so he left. Now you have very few question marks left as far as what your standing is on the team. Like Damari Alston, he's coming in here knowing that there are 2 prime tailbacks in front of you. He's saying he's cool with it. So there aren't going to be these, man, I should be on the field. No, you know what's going on. Anybody who's in that wide receiver room from this year to next year, you know where you stand at the very least with this current wide receiver coach and with the head coach. Now that you know that, we shouldn't have the turnover and the, is it culture? Is you doing what I want you to do? That's not going to happen. So that's a really good thing. That's going to be good for stability in the room. I really hope that, like you said, C, there will be no favorites. It's going to be spring, go. Everybody's getting the same number of reps. Go. There's not going to be a Grant Lloyd clogging things up. No, it's going to be Finley, a guy who won us a game and had some starts last year, at least 3 starts total because he's going to start the bowl game for us. There's going to be D.D. Davis, who waited his time patiently. And when he had opportunities to kick up some fuss or get out the door, he stayed, he waited his turn, and he's ready to break out. Then you've got Holden Gerner. I think I saw C-Dub correct the pronunciation there. So it's Gerner. Want to make sure we're saying his name right because I've heard like 5 different. I've stated 5 different. Garner. Okay.
Garner.
We need to get him on record saying his name soon, so we can. Absolutely.
There's probably something. There's probably something out there.
But what we have are guys who know where they stand, who have waited their time, or who are willing to continue to wait their time. And I think we have no way to confirm this. Again, we might not trust the coaches 100% because we don't have that evidence yet. Going by year one, they're left a little bit to be desired as far as who played and when at several positions. But we hope, man, look, just give everybody a shot. You got an OC who you are saying is good at developing quarterbacks. Russell Wilson is saying this guy's good at developing quarterbacks. Pete Carroll is saying he's good at developing quarterbacks. Brian Harsin put out a quote saying that he's excited about what he can do with quarterbacks. Okay, let him develop your quarterbacks. Make a fair judgment on who should be the starting quarterback and let it ride. And I don't want to see a guy limping on and off the field and not pulling him, even though he can't put weight on one of his legs. I don't want to see that for any guy because you should know what you've got in guy number 1 and guy number 2, and whoever gives us the best chance to win should be who's on the field. We'll see if we actually get that in year 2.
So let me ask you guys this. I'm playing with scenarios here. Let's say I don't want it to happen because I want him to have a good game. But if Finley doesn't have a good game in the bowl game, does this change what the coaches do in terms of the QB position with the transfer portal?
Possibly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in other words, you know, we're saying, hey, I think we need to, go with, we got Finley, we got Davis. But if the bowl game tells us anything that, hey, QB looks a little shaky, are we going after whoever is in the portal?
Yeah, I think, but you still got to bring in somebody who makes sense.
Yeah.
If you're going to do that. Now, in terms of Finley, he's got to have a good game.
This is either prove it or not.
Yeah, he's got to have a good game. And when I say good game, I'm not saying he doesn't have to go out there and throw for 400 yards. But
sure.
I would like to see him be turnover free, and at least 65 to 70% on the day versus Houston.
Right.
Show some rapport with the receivers. Don't try to push too much. That's his job. Mm-hmm. Right. If he goes out there and he's sub 50%, it's going to be really tough to come back from. Now, that's the type of police that I wanted prior.
Right. You
don't get 2.5 seasons to F up and then keep the job and you know what I mean? And then your floor. Finley has to raise his floor. That's what he's got to do. Now, hopefully what we've seen is already his floor, and it only gets better from there.
Right.
We just don't know that. Right. And I stand by that. Everybody claiming that they know what his ceiling is after 2 games starting here, that's crap. Yeah. That's bull. Almost no quarterback would have made it if we were determining people's ceilings after 2 games. Right. As a matter of fact, the other one would have been out of here 2 years ago.
Or even better, if I take his junior season and he had, if I throw away our first 2 cupcakes, if I take Penn State and Georgia State, then I would have never played bowl again. Based on the first real competition we had on the road and the game after that. Right. Because that's when we were supposed to have been turning it on. We had our cupcake games at home. We got acclimated. Now turn it on. And those next 2 games that he played were not good. So he got time. And guess what? He got better when he got time to play. All of the issues, I remember Ike broke down on Watch the Film, TJ's first start at South Carolina, and a lot of it, he had some mechanical issues. I'm thinking, you know what?
Right.
We watched load of mechanical issues from Bo early in the season that got better the more he played. TJ, however you're going to assess him, and that's why the bowl game is really good for him, because you're going to get 2 to 3 weeks as the guy.
Right.
You're going to come out here and play a game against a team that, while good, they do not have the average caliber of athletes that the SEC teams we play are. So the defense shouldn't be able to put up as much resistance as the defenses that we face game in and game out during the season. This is where you show it. You are primed as number 1. You haven't been getting 15, 20, 25% of the reps like during the season. You were the guy. You were throwing to these wide receivers. they're gonna put the ball in your hands, and it's not gonna be Bobo anymore. It's gonna be the coach who, honestly, the OC's not gonna be here for this game. It's gonna be the head coach who is the offensive mind, who is designing things just for you to do and execute. This is the shot. If he's got a shot at competing for the starting job, there will be little to no excuse. Well, offensive line is going to be staggered. We got a guy that left and transferred. We got a guy that's declared for the NFL.
We got question marks. We got question marks.
And we got our centers out. So that's a factor. But if I'm putting up against Houston's roster, and they're not bad, there's not that much of a gap between a really good G5 team and a mediocre Power 5 team, because let's be honest, that's what we were this year. There is not that much gap to where you can just dismiss them. You've got to go out there and play. We should be able to win with the talent that we have, but this is his time to show that he has the salt to get this done. I hope he does it.
Yeah. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, he's going to get a spring. He's going to get a whole spring regardless of what happens in this game. I'm reading these comments, and I'll tell you, there's going to be a whole lot of salty people if Finley ends up winning this job this spring. Right. So the same way.
I don't understand that, man.
The same energy they had previously about trust the coaches, and you think the coaches know what they see him in practice. If we get through spring and they decide he's still the best opportunity to win, I'm rolling with it. What I hope is that the leash is shorter than it was. Right.
No matter who it is.
No matter who it is, the leash has got to be shorter, man. And that floor his floor can't be what it was in South Carolina and Alabama. And if you ask TJ, I think he would tell you that. Right. Because we heard him take responsibility for his play after both those games about the things that he could have done better. So he's hyper aware. He's not under any delusion that he does not need to raise his floor. That's it. Right. And that's what this coach needs. This coach needs to raise this team's floor significantly as well, too. Right. So as a team, they got to find a way to raise the floor. It starts with offensive line and quarterback. That's what we got for us. It starts with offensive line and quarterback. This defense, put us in a lot of position to win games this year. If we could have just helped them out some games when we went up against dynamic offensive talent. Sometimes you got to win a shootout. Sometimes you got to win a low score and drag it out, slugfest, right? So you got to be able to win a variety of ways in this league because of the variety of systems, coaching, and talent. Now, we went over this. We talked about all the different coaches that are in the SEC West alone this year.
It's crazy.
They've all made their mark on college football in some kind of significant way. Mike Leach, Nick Saban. Now you got Brian Kelly coming to LSU, Jimbo Fisher, Brian Harsin, Lane Kiffin, Sam Pittman. Woo! That is coaches murder's row.
Murder's rough out here.
Wow. And then if you get through all that, you go to the other side of the conference and you got Kirby Smart, who's recruiting 5-stars every weekend.
Great.
May not be the best game day coach, but they got 5-star talent all over the place.
Yeah.
So, they just have to raise this floor, and I'm happy. Listen, man, if TJ loses this job this spring, he's going to lose it to a dynamic freshman. Likely.
Yeah.
Right? Unless they bring in a transfer. So that will tell me that those quarterbacks raise their floor.
Right.
From their freshman seasons. And then you just have to go into next season seeing if that translates to the field on Saturday. Because practice is one thing. You don't get hit in practice. Right? They're taking it easy on. You know a little bit of what's coming in practice. Hopefully they can stress test you in practice, but under the lights in front of 90,000 people is a different thing.
Agreed.
So that's what we're looking for here, man. I whatever guy once the clock starts and the lights go on, I'm rooting for Auburn. So whoever's there, I want them to do well. Do you know before no game this year did I go in thinking Bo's going to have a terrible game? Never. Not one game this season. I went into every game hoping that we were going to see his ceiling and not his floor.
Right.
And what I don't understand is all the people in here who already have decided what this young man's ceiling is.
Right.
Like, I don't get it. I just don't understand it. Keep the same energy. 2 games at Auburn. And I'll tell you what, if not for his efforts, we're not even sitting here talking about a bowl game.
Because we would have lost Georgia State. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not even sitting here talking about a bowl game. Give me a break.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like I said, I'm just I've got hope for anybody who they decide to start.
Right.
Right. Nobody is sitting here like if you're an Auburn fan and if you want to be so right about TJ that you're willing to watch us lose, I said something I was supposed to say, but like that's for the birds.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've never had that energy for any quarterback that has played at Auburn.
Contrary to what people say.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I thought I was in the group when we were in school that thought that Jason Campbell was a better quarterback than Daniel Cobb. When Cobb went in, I had the highest of hopes for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please.
That's it. Brandon Cox, same thing. I didn't think he was the best quarterback, but you know what? It is what it is, man. When he went in, I'm rooting for Brandon Cox.
Yeah.
Right. And then if you think about after that, all the quarterbacks that got a shot between him and Cam, how short their leash was.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Come on, man.
Some rough times, man.
So there was some rough times in there. The Cody Burnses, the Barrett Trotters, the Neil Cottles. Who else was in there?
They were actually after Cam, but
yeah, you're right. Yeah, Kyle.
Yeah, Chris.
No, they were before. They were before Cam. Yeah,
I think
that was the dark. Trotter was right after Cam.
Trotter was after Cam, but Cottle and Cody were before Cam.
Before Cam, they were before Cam.
Okay, Cody definitely was. Yeah.
Right, because Chris Todd came in 2009 and
he passed those two. He
Cottle
passed those two guys.
and Cody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
for the job. Right, so I mean that was it. A guy coming off a bum shoulder, and Gus Malzahn's first year's offensive coordinator won the job.
Yeah.
Right, so
we've been
I'm just saying, man, come on, dude. Like, let's give this kid a fair chance. Let's give him the positive energy he deserves going into this.
Well, I think it goes back to what you said. We're gonna get to a super chat real quick, but it goes back to what you said, man. You just got to choose Auburn. Like, choose Auburn. I was arguing with someone on Twitter who is still salty about Gus. Still salty about Gus, and I'm like, listen.
Yeah, he should be fading from memory at this point. Yeah,
he's not coming. He's not coming back. So, are you going to get behind who our head coach now? So, whoever the QB is, are you going to get behind them?
Yeah. Now, I've got the same energy for Harsin. There's a lot of people who decided prematurely that Harsin can't recruit.
Why?
Listen, it was a widely spread narrative, and I was like, wait, but he's coaching in his first year. This is his first full recruiting cycle, and you're getting mad because a bunch of kids aren't early committing to a coach they have not even
can say it's a full recruting cycle. With the dead period taking up most of it. I mean, but go on.
No, man. I mean, but he had the previous. He came in before we signed the previous class, and then he had a whole year to recruit the next year. Right.
Well, he did not come in before we signed the early class. That's the thing, because Kevin Steele and Chad Morris were securing our early signing day last year. So Harsin came in to finish with the regular signing day in February. That's not a full recruiting season.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, for 2021. For 2022, he had all of 2021 to recruit, and he had a little bit before that. I mean, he had to do double duty. You had to finish off your 21 class and start making connections for 2022. Mm-hmm. So you're right. I mean, I don't know if we can call it a full recruiting cycle for 2022, but he definitely had a lot more time.
An asterisk. You can put an asterisk there for that.
But people were still judging this man on recruiting under those circumstances. Right. These are the same people who they already determined that he can't recruit. And then look what he went out there and did.
Right.
It took him a while to get there. You weren't going to see it in August.
Right.
He had to get to the end of the season, let things flesh out, and then kids using all that information can now decide whether they want to recruit to Auburn. You early commit to coaches that are established and have been at their programs.
Right.
You late commit to coaches that just got there.
Right. That you
We
know
got
nothing
him.
about.
Yeah, landing a top 15 class was such an accomplishment. But he shut a lot of people up.
And
It
it's
just took
and
some
it's not
time.
over. It's not
It's
over.
not over, right? So
We
I'm
might
only,
get a dude tomorrow that'll take us from 15 to 12. We're in it for 3 or 4 recruits between now and February that could sneak us into the top 10, and the transfer portal wouldn't count, but it would land us even more established, experienced talent. This, when it's all said and done, if you calculate what the transfers are in the class, this could easily be a top 10 class in his first full recruiting cycle. Easily.
right.
After a 6
Yeah.
and 6 season.
Yeah, that's all I'm
Yeah.
saying. So, at the end of the day, like I said, all these people who have the same people who decided that Harsin couldn't recruit in August are the same people saying that they've already written off TJ Finley after 2 games under probably the worst circumstances, that you had a lame duck OC and a top 2 Bama at home. Right. And if you look back again, those same problems plagued everybody. The other idea that I want to kind of shoot down is this idea that we have to have a mobile QB to be successful. You don't. You just need a QB, a system that fits the QB strengths that you have. Now, if you're not mobile, you got to be spectacular at some other things.
Right.
So for Finley, here's where TJ has to go into the offseason really up in his game. Number one, and I spoke with some people close to Finley about this. There's nothing wrong with the sack sometimes. Take a sack, get down. But you are not Bo Nix. So I don't want to see him running all over the field trying to dodge 8 tackles.
Facts.
Right. Get the ball out of your hands fast. Right.
Right.
And regardless of there are some things, guys, that are just quarterback things. So regardless of playing time, running backwards on 3rd down in the Iron Bowl and taking your team out of field goal range, inexcusable.
Mm-hmm.
That is just a quarterback thing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Maybe some coaching. So there's some coaching things where they tell him, hey, make sure you don't take us out of range. Get down quick or get rid of the ball. Just don't take us out of field goal range. This is a tight game.
Right. Which is why I said, as we watched Finley in his first 2 starts, it looked a lot like what we saw from Bo in his first real competition starts.
Correct.
Early in the year. If we take Penn State, Georgia State, he looked bad. The home crowd was booing a guy who had started for over 20 games at Auburn, who was a legacy player where his dad played ball here and was loved.
Yeah.
The reason that happened is because he was playing badly. Right. Everybody needs time. Like there's no way you can let anybody do any job without giving them the opportunity to learn, to make mistakes, and hopefully you see improvement. And we did see that improvement. Now I had to eat crow mid-season because after Georgia State, I was like, this coaching staff had to have known something and seen something, because I wouldn't have put Bo back out there because he looked bad against Penn State. He looked mediocre. Georgia State was terrible.
Georgia State was just the bottom fell out for Bo.
Right.
So if he can have that type of game and bounce back, I am willing to give this is what I'll say. I am willing to give any player the opportunity to get better. But the question is, the coaches have to make a decision. Is there another guy I can put in here that doesn't need that much runway to reach the heights he's going to reach? That's the real question. We as fans don't know it. But in practice, assuming that everybody is getting at least some type of reps at it, some chances with the ones, or at least, some guys that are splitting between first and second team, you should be able to see it. And even if TJ has a ceiling of 8 after a full season, well, if Gerner or Dede has a ceiling of 9 or 10 after 6 games, and hey, coach, that's your job. Your job is to get whoever has the highest ceiling and the highest floor out there and get them ready to go. I'm not saying that TJ can't be the better quarterback over a long time, but if there's a guy who can do it in half the time, that's the guy we need to see.
Yeah,
that's the guy. That's your guy.
So, to put a bow on this conversation, right?
No pun intended.
We need to raise the floor, and the coaches now have to decide how low a floor are you willing to deal with this season, because we're coming off 6-6 or 7-6 or 6-7, depending on what happens in this bowl game. the floor just got raised significantly for whoever's going to play quarterback. Right.
Yeah.
We potentially have a whole new line, and they're going to have to devise a system that takes into account that pass pro may not be great. And some of the best quarterbacks in our league, I just watched a guy win the Heisman behind a bottom 5 offensive line in our league.
He got beat up all season long.
And pass protection. Bama's O-line was bottom 5 in pass protection in our league.
Mm-hmm.
Now he won a Heisman.
Yep.
But they just understood what their line was. Their line did not get better as the season went along either. They're going to be that same O-line in the playoffs. Right? So, the system has got to take into account for that. So that we just need to raise the floor. Bring it up. Bring it up for whoever, and then just apply those same standards to everybody. There's no way at a place like Auburn we should be sitting here watching a guy struggle to do it for 2.5 years ever again. I don't care who it is. Right. Yeah. So we got to get there. Our fans are not used to what it looks like, guys, when you have so much talent at one position.
Yeah. Right.
That you would fathom even benching a guy who is maybe not bad, but there's somebody better.
Yeah. That's right.
Right.
The upper tier coaches are making these decisions all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so the best we've got has to be better.
Right.
And the worst that we've got has to be better.
Right.
So, we'll get there. If Harsin keeps recruiting, hopefully Holden Gariner is the start of that.
Right.
Hopefully he's the start of raising our floor, him and Dede. Raising our floor. And then you begin a pipeline of guys who do not have to come in and be the savior of this football team in their first year.
Right.
You're putting out guys.
Since 2009, since Chris Todd got here, it was 1 year guys who got here and did their best. Nick Marshall was the exception with 2, but he didn't even play quarterback before. We were counting on an ace in the hole every year to be what got our offense going and consistently moving. And hopefully, like you said, we need some stability, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So if you do that, you begin just kind of a pipeline of guys who can come in their sophomore or junior years, well versed in what's expected of them, with good chemistry with the team, and just step in and take the job, and you keep it pushing. That's it.
Yeah.
Bottom line, we can get there. It's going to take them a little bit.
I am Hop says, I don't know if this has been discussed yet, but we have one QB who's taken snaps in a college football game. We need to look at a transfer.
That's not a bad take. So that's not a bad take. I agree 100%. You might have to. That's why I do think that they maybe at least look. I just don't think they should go out there and just take anybody.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
You have one guy who's been in your system, and even though he hasn't taken college snaps, it doesn't matter. Everybody hasn't taken a snap at some point.
Right.
Well, again, to the question I asked you guys before we get to the break here, this bowl game is going to give us a huge clue as to what we think this coaching staff is going to do at the QB position. If Finley goes in there and tears it up, I think this coaching staff feels a lot more confident in what they have, given you got Dede still waiting to prove himself and Gariner coming in. So if Finley tears it up, this coaching staff feels a lot better about this room.
Right. Go in there. I mean, Finley's got to play like a man on a mission.
Yeah.
Right. Go in there and tear this thing up, because it life's tough, dude. You're just not going to get the same amount of chances as the last dude. That's it.
For real.
Right.
Yeah.
And none of us want to see that either. As a fan, I don't want to see that.
Facts.
Right.
Right. There's enough talent around him, and the defense may even improve next year based on some of the number one JUCO guys that we got at safety and corner. And this could still be a really good defense in year 2.
Yeah. So listen, guys, if you've been watching, man, up to this point and you've been enjoying the content, do us a favor. We know you guys are commenting left and right, and we appreciate you. But if you're just watching, you're not commenting, still engage by getting the thumbs up. Please be sure to like this video. That helps us out a ton with our engagement. Mike G, tell the people about what they're missing out on by not being a member of this community, man.
Hey, listen, become an insider. This is a great way to support our content. We're growing and we're delving into basketball content, which is become a lot of fun. We got a basketball game coming up here in about an hour, 10 minutes. So the Bruce is loose again and Auburn Coliseum. So become an insider, help support our content. We're growing. We're bringing you guys more press conferences, more Auburn content. We're the hardest working content creators January to July, without a doubt. Also, go check out our friends over at Locked On Auburn. We love them. Infinite Auburn. That's Chase. That's Chase H. Please go check him out. As well as Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn. We're partnered with the Lee County Humane Society to raise money for a good cause. Help us #save all the puppies. You can find the link to this GoFundMe in the About section of our YouTube channel. Visit our merch store, which is also in the About section of our YouTube channel. And before we move on here, a quick word from one of our sponsors.
All right, business owners, high-income professionals, listen up. Have you ever considered that by funding a 401k or IRA, you are potentially creating a massive tax burden when you retire? Contrary to what you hear from traditional advisors and accountants, 401k or IRA do not save on taxes. It postpones the tax and tax calculation. Wealthy people don't have access to some special tax code. They use financial products, parts of the tax code that are available to everyone, including you and strategy. Would you like to learn how to take advantage of the tax code? All right, well, check this out. Our guy, Ethan Daw, the owner of Innovative Financial Solutions, has clients throughout the USA and is a nationally recognized expert in the veterinary community. You know how we love to say the puppies. So contact Ethan at 251-243-6038 or email him, ethan@ethandaw.com. Ethan Daw is your alternative to traditional financial planning. Tell him the War Report sent you.
Yeah. So again, visit that merch store, get yourself some merch. Thanks for joining us on a Saturday here. We got a basketball game, no football, but we got basketball.
Indeed. David, we appreciate you, man. Thank you. I got my t-shirt. It's super soft. Listen, it's soft, but is it Egyptian cotton soft?
Egyptian cotton.
All right, let us know, man. Let us know, because that's
what
what Mike G
was
promised.
Is it like butter? Does it feel like butter? That's what he was saying.
Should never feel wet. That's gross. Anyway, it's going to take time to trust the process instead of hope. Hey, man, I'm not mad at that at all, man. It's going to take some time for sure. Yeah. Let's talk about recruiting, man. Tomorrow, we're going to find out if we're going to have a new addition to this recruiting class. Now, we've been calling him Thanos, but do you know how to pronounce his last name? Is it
Mba?
Is
it Mba?
Yeah, okay.
Sure.
Jeffrey Mba.
His name too. Yeah,
that's a nice attempt at it. But he's going to announce where he intends to play, and Auburn feels pretty confident about it, and that could boost our class even more, which would make this even more of an impressive recruiting haul, especially with the needs we have along the defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
How you feeling about this, B? Is this a pretty sure thing? It's hard to say that when it comes to recruiting, but
yeah, man. I mean, you never know, man. Everybody had spun predictions about Curtis Perry, you know what I mean, on Wednesday, and then it didn't work out like you thought, you know what I'm saying? So you never know for sure. All we know is that our defensive line was the most consistent unit on our defense.
Yeah.
While we did lack pass rush at times, it seemed to be more of a decision than an inability, because when we needed to rush the pass for the last game of the regular season, boy, did we. It was amazing. I mean, you come down with what was it, 6-7 sacks total?
This is 7, I think.
I mean, that's amazing. So Derek Hall said he's on the fence about going or coming back. Kobe Wooden, the same thing. He's on the fence about going or coming back. And I am not incredibly worried about the defensive line talent, though, because Lee Hunter, we didn't even see him. And Kobe Wooden said he's getting reps in practice. We didn't see Dylan Brooks getting reps in practice. We didn't see much of, was it Gabe Wright? Not Gabe Wright, excuse me. Gabe, who's hurt in the spring. What's his last name?
Jeffrey. Jeremiah Wright.
I'm sorry, I call him Gabe. We had a Gabe Wright playing the D-line. That's right.
You're wild ago, yeah.
It was a long time ago, yeah. So we've got guys on the defensive line. Eko Leota, pass rusher, he's still coming back. Romello Height, pass rusher, he's coming back. We've got guys on the D-line, and I'm not incredible. I don't think we need him. If either Wooden or Hall comes back, Mba's not a need. He's icing on the cake. But it never hurts to have more talent, man. It never hurts to have more talent. We heard Jeremiah Wright was the most impressive guy in spring, and then he got hurt. You never know when that could happen. So you get every guy in that you can, get as much talent as you can. I would love for us to land him and then go really heavy for some offensive linemen. We got to February, man. Well, we got a little longer because of transfer, but offensive line that's the position we need. That's the need, the position of most need, and that's the position we did the least with so far in this recruiting class. So I am ecstatic that we are getting a physical specimen that looks like Jeffrey Mba. However, offensive line, I feel like that's almost why we lost Tank. Unlike the situation with Bo, I don't think it was Tank's thing wasn't, hey man, y'all are blaming me too much for the losses, or no, he was like, hey, listen, I've got this talent, right? Y'all can't give me any room. I run blocking. It's not good enough. I got one more year. I'm going to put my body on the line, and I need numbers. I got 1,000 this year. I could have gotten 1,500 if the line was good. And if the OC was doing work for me like it should have been. How much of this are you going to fix? So they got rid of Bobo. And hopefully they're going to do something in the portal and signing with offensive line. And it almost exclusively has to be portal because you can't count on freshman offensive linemen to make a huge difference in year one of the SEC. That's just, it's very rare that happens. Right. So I'm hoping that what they sold Tank on was we are going to fix this line, and that they already have some inroads with some guys that are in the portal with some recruits that is telegraphing that those guys are coming here. I really, really hope that's the case. And by is great. I really want to get 2 or 3 more offensive linemen.
Well, we're in it for a few guys that we didn't really press hard. I know you got Jalen Farmer and Nez Cooper, who are like 3-star offensive guards. We're definitely trying to get someone out of the portal for tackle for sure. You still have Antavius Woody, who was committed to FSU, decided not to send in his letter of intent to FSU or sign this week. So that's a positive sign for Auburn, who has been after him throughout this recruiting cycle. They're offering him the flexibility to play D-line as well. I think he wants to play D-line, but Auburn has mentioned that, hey, we could use you at both. So, so that's been kind of the pull there. I'm just be curious to see what kind of ground I think this staff knows what they need. They know how critical it's going to be down the road we saw the struggles we had trying to run the ball this year. And I think this staff knows that O-line is a position of need, especially when it comes to the portal, because you need guys now, right?
Right.
So to see who they get over the course of the next few months is going to be interesting, and it's going to be really important because we got to be able to run the ball. We saw how tough it is to be one-dimensional in the SEC. We have to be able to run the football when we need to. So,
yeah, I think a lot of this is system related. A lot of our run struggles were system related. And because we couldn't throw the ball with any consistency, teams just loaded up the box to stop them. And we didn't have those guys that could just, what's coming, we're just going to smash you and run it anyway. That's really hard to do in our league with the run or the pass. When teams can only expect one thing from you, you have to be extraordinary at that thing.
Right.
So, Mississippi State is my example. Like, we know they're going to throw the ball 60 times a game. Running is not what they do. Right. So to do that and for it to be successful, you have to run crisp routes, and your quarterback has to be pinpoint accurate. Right. They had that last year, so it still worked. For our run game, it was the same thing. But teams were loading the box saying, we're not going to let Auburn run the ball on us. And Harsin made a good point, man. We talk about recruiting. We've got guys on campus that you have not seen yet.
Right.
Everybody's freaking out saying we need to go get portal offensive linemen, when the truth is they've got guys that they've been developing for over a year in that O-line room. If any development is happening at all, some of those guys should be able to step up and fill in. You went with your most experienced guys in year one because you had the most tape on them. And year two, you just go with the best guys.
Yeah.
Right. In year one, they prioritize experience over talent. And year two, you just got to get the most talented guys on the field. So I'm not as super concerned. We need to start recruiting good freshman offensive linemen, certainly. Yeah. And if you can find somebody who makes sense to bring in next year that can help us immediately, sure, bring them in. It never hurts.
I'm looking forward to 2023 to really be the year where we bring in, because again, it was going to be tough sledding this year because you've been recruiting some of these kids for just a few months, as opposed to other school. And O-line is like QB. Like, it's going to be hard. Those guys are after those kids early. The big programs are. So I expect to see us getting freshmen in the next recruiting cycle in 2023.
Yeah.
I think for now, man, you just got to go to the portal and identify where your needs are and go get those guys that can help you. Ham declared for the draft. So of course we need somebody for right tackle at the very least. We know we got Zaire, who will be coming back next year playing the left tackle. So
Keandre Jones is back, right?
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Irvin will be there. I don't know if he's going to be. So we
transferred. Manning transferred to Kentucky.
Manning transferred. So we know where our needs are. I don't think we need a complete overhaul. I agree with you, Mike G, in that regard. But you need to go to the portal, get a guy or two, and run with the guys we got. So
that guy from is it Cornell or
yes,
we offered him.
Yeah, right. The big guy, right? And a lot of people offered him. Like a lot of schools are after this kid.
Hunter.
Yeah.
No.
Chat, help me out. There's an O lineman that we offered, and he on his Twitter he was posting all the schools that gave him offers, and it was there was some significant names on that list. There were some big players who everybody's trying to get this kid on campus.
I think it's Hunter. I think it's Hunter Norzad or
yeah. Okay, that sounds right. And so you go out, and that's the type of kid I'm looking for them to bring in if you're going to bring in somebody. Somebody who can, big body, he's physically developed. We talked about this in a segment, I think, who was it that came on? But we're talking about how offensive line, it's one of those developmental positions because it's hard to come in and play as a true freshman because your body just isn't physically ready.
Right.
That's one of the reasons why you got to be 2 years removed from high school to go to the league. If we sent 3 years, like if we sent guys 1 year out of high school, they would literally get hurt at the next level. It takes years to catch your body up in terms of strength and conditioning to be able to compete at that level. So, the Ivy League O lineman, right? I think Solo Tigre. Tigre. I like the name. That's funny. They've got to do something on offensive line. Sure, for next season, yes, we have to recruit offensive linemen. I think some of the recruiting issues that people are talking about are a little overblown. We have more of a developmental issue at offensive line. So develop the guys who
did a decent job too. When Harsin got here, in terms of he grabbed he grabbed a tackle from North Carolina. Like that was the first tackle we had brought in like years. So Harsin is working. He is. Point, Mike G.
The rest of it is system, man, and then just cover these guys with system. I can't tell you. People have gotten. You remember the press conference where somebody was talking about the next man up mentality to Saban, and he got really angry. He was like, "You guys just think we should another player? It don't work like that." Yeah. And he's out. I mean, I felt him when he said that.
Well, you do, right? Nick, but go off.
I mean, people have gotten so used to it that they take for granted what the process is like to always have a next man up.
Yeah,
it's very, very difficult, and it is a process. So, this idea that these players just kind of come out of nowhere is overplayed, man. We've got to get guys in. We've got to develop them. It takes years sometimes on O-line. So the portal has changed the game. It's given everybody a stopgap, but it cannot be. If you're going to have a successful program, you can't be trying to pick up free agents in a position where it takes a lot of chemistry too with the guys around you. We talked to King Dunlap about this. It's knowing where how the guy next to you even steps.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. You bring in a old lineman and he's technically good, but he's got no chemistry with the guys around him. That's not a good thing. Assignment bust or what you're going to get.
Right.
Your old linemen tripping all over themselves, dude.
Right.
I'd rather see the guys that have been in our system step up, that have been playing with the guy next to them, practicing with the guy next to them. And then from a system standpoint, they've been running other teams have been running such a great system. You don't really think about their weaknesses. How many times did we have to point out to people how bad Bama's O-line was in pass protection this year? I called it at the beginning of the year. I got B to come over to my side by like week 3. Come on, man. They're not good. They're not good at pass protection. Right. But still, how many times do we look in the chat and we say people, well, I could be successful behind that O-line? No, the hell you couldn't.
Yeah.
Right. They had a good system and they had a dynamic quarterback that covered a multitude of sins on O-line this year. Yeah. Right. And the skill positions didn't hurt either. What we have to do is we need a system that starts that for us as well, too. That's why I'm excited about Harsin taking over play calling. Right. Come on, man. Show us what you got. You cut your cloth as a play caller. This should excite every Auburn fan. This coach is going to be calling plays. Let's go, man. Come on. This could be really, really exciting. True balance. Because when you don't know what's coming, it does, Tank should run wild.
Right.
Well, a little bit better passing. Tank should run wild. TJ's got to do his part, man. He's got to go out there and throw accurate passes. TJ, if you're hearing me, bro, you got to be accurate.
Right.
You don't have a choice. You can't go out there and be mediocre with accuracy.
Right.
Because you can't run like the dude before. So what you have to make up for that in quick releases and be pinpoint accurate. That's it.
You don't have to press, man. You just let the game come to, because I'm imagining Harsin is going to play to his strengths. He's like, I'm using my weapons. I'm using Tank. I'm using Jarquez. I don't want you to feel like you have to be Tom Brady and put the whole team on your shoulders. Take what the defense gives you. If you do that and just play your game, you're going to be fine. Again, you said it all year. We're not asking for him to be this superstar quarterback that's going to throw 400 yards every game. We just need you to be a little over 65%, hit those passes, keep the defense honest, take what the defense gives you. Don't press.
We didn't need that from the last dude. We don't need it from the next dude.
Right.
What we need is the system to be better than what it is, because that affects every kid on that field.
Right.
And what we got was not Harsin's vision of what that offense was supposed to look like last season. That's probably the most disappointing part of this year. In Bo's defense, maybe if we get Harsin's system last year, he's still here. And not only is he still here, he's still healthy, and he has a much better year than he had.
Right.
Yeah, perhaps.
I think that was a real possibility if we were actually running Harsin's multiple offense. You can't, now that we fired the dude calling plays, you're not going to be able to sell to me that that's what we saw. You
saw Bobo's offense. I mean, if you watched Bobo's offense, even Georgia fans was like, they're telling us, hey, he does this at these key moments. Okay, that sounds like Bobo. Based on what they're describing.
They were right. Yeah. Like, listen, Georgia fans and South Carolina fans, shout out to y'all. Y'all showed up repeatedly and consistently to tell us.
And I'll give Kenneth credit. he's one of our subscribers.
Wait, is Kenneth watching? Right? Yeah, like Kenneth.
If he's one of us, say we'll give him credit. You were right.
Kenneth
was right on him.
He was never on. If y'all don't know Kenneth, it's just Kenneth in the comments. He's an insider. He, from the beginning, he was like, man, Bobo is not it. Right. And I didn't want to go into the season just waiting. I'm not just sitting here hoping for anybody to mess up. I'm like, okay, well, maybe this will be different because of the whole head coach that he's working under as an offensive guy. Right. That's what I thought.
Well, can we be honest? Like, I wasn't excited about the hire either, but what can we do? He's our OC. So hopefully he figures it. This is the year he figures it out, right? Because if he doesn't, what kind of season are we talking about?
Yeah. That's gloom. That's a lot of gloom and doom.
Yeah.
We got a Georgia fan here says a UGA fan. I tried to say I've seen him refuse to give the ball to Gurley in short down situations.
Oh God.
Yeah,
he still does it.
He's still doing it.
God.
Kedron or Kedron. Just want to make sure I said your name right.
Welcome,
we saw it.
by the way.
Yeah, we experienced that in real time.
Oh God.
So now you're Harsin and you're going out and you kind of circling back to this offensive coordinator hire, and you've gotten a guy that can work with your quarterback, but you're going to call plays to ensure that your vision of offense is executed. I love that. That excites me.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
So, if we have to move on for some reason, we saw exactly what it was supposed to look like. And it needs to produce about 2 more wins next year so that we can say we're trending up. Yeah.
At least.
It needs to produce 2 more wins next year so we can say we're trending up.
Yep.
Indeed. Agreed. B. Will, I know you mentioned offensive tackle. I know we are in it. I know Ike has mentioned this, and I gotta say I kind of agree with Ike, especially given how our running back room is shaping up now. I know there was concerns about Tank transferring, but he's been reported at practice this week. Is that correct, Mike G? Why as he takes a sip?
Wait, what? I'm sorry.
Tank has reported to practice this week.
Yes.
So our running back room, it looks better. But we're in it for Trevante Citizen. We already have Damari Alston in the fold.
Mm-hmm.
Do we really need another running back, or should our efforts just be balls to the wall, offensive linemen? Like, where should our focus be?
I don't know. We got enough spots that it doesn't have to be one or the other, man. Just go get the guys that are out there. There's nothing wrong with an abundance of talent in any position, but I asked somebody this question because I wasn't sure. It looks like we have plenty of room to sign guys on this class based on portal transfers.
Right.
Yeah.
We lost 7.
Mm-hmm.
So
we got 7 back.
Yeah, so they can go out there. They can still go after offensive linemen aggressively, and if this Citizen kid wants to come, we'll take him too. He's good. I've seen his tape.
Yeah,
he's talented.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Bo's got one more. Tank's got one more year, and then he's out of here, and you're in a dogfight with another true freshman, and Hunter, who's got the jump up on him. But like I said, if we're running a 2-back system, nothing wrong with having 2 backs that can do the job.
Right.
No wrong. And then next year, and in 2023, that's his last year, and you're up again. Worst case scenario, you come in, you redshirt, and you still got 4 years left to play.
Yeah.
All right, man. You got one guy who's leaving your redshirt freshman year, and going into your redshirt sophomore year, you got 3 years left to play, and hopefully you're the lead guy. So, splitting time with Alston if they both pan out.
Right.
Not a bad situation.
Sometimes guys don't. And that's why you get multiple guys at that position. Now, that's not what the kid wants to think. They think, I'm going to come in here, I'm going to show out, I'm going to get an opportunity to show out, use it, get out of here in 3 years. But sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes a guy's going to be injury prone. So, I mean, where we're saying we get Citizen and we got 4 outstanding running backs on our roster.
I would like to do what I see Georgia do and how they rotate running backs. I think that the thing about that Georgia game is that we were in the 4th quarter and they were just putting in fresh guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And those guys were running mad. And the reason we gave up as many yards on the ground is because there were guys who wasn't really playing a whole lot and were fresh in the second half and were grinding away at us. So if we do get guys like Sid, I would like to see us use that to where you're not having, you get into a situation, Tank got the hot hand, you run with Tank. But if you can grind away teams, especially if you're able to get up on them early, like we showed the ability to do this season, and able to just run the ball down teams' throats in the second half, that's the kind of dominance I want to see moving forward with this offense, that we can get up on people and then just wear them down with our powerful running backs and an O-line. So
Yeah.
Definitely something to keep an eye on, especially if we keep getting talent like a Trevante Citizen. So he's definitely somebody to keep watch on as we move into February.
Yeah, before we move on from recruiting, I just want to make a point about rankings. Because a lot has been made of these recruiting rankings, and we're ranked 16th, we're ranked this. There is very little difference between the 16th ranked class and like the 7th ranked class.
Right.
Very little. The only reason we're at 16 is because we physically have less recruits than some of the teams ranked in front of us. But our average star rating is higher than 6 of the teams ranked in front of us.
Right.
So according to Rivals, shout out to JG Tate over at auburnsports.com. They're the Rivals site. Auburn has an average star rating of 3.61. At 14 in front of us is Mississippi State at 3.27. Arkansas, 3.19. Florida State, 3.59. We have an average higher rating than all these schools, I'm saying. Tennessee, 3.35. Kentucky, 3.5. Michigan, 3.48. They just got a 5-star. So they're, again, they're ranked a little higher than us. And even Texas at number 5 in recruiting, but they have 27 recruits.
Right.
And with an average star rating of 3.56.
Right.
So it's not always about how many guys you can recruit. It's about how well did you do plugging the holes that you had on your roster.
Quality, not quantity.
Correct.
And meeting needs.
We only have 18 recruits and we got another signing day to come. If we end up like Texas they got 27 recruits. They're not taking any more recruits.
Right.
The number 1, 2, and 3 teams in recruiting have 27, 24, and 26 respectively. If we sign 4 more recruits, that's going to take Auburn up really close to a top 10 class.
Yeah.
Right.
That doesn't really make us that much better than the teams that we pass, though. So it really comes down to what do you do with the guys that you have, and did you get guys that fill the needs that you have?
Right.
So Trevante Citizen is a nice get that will boost our recruiting rankings, certainly. But if he's not plugging any holes we didn't really get better.
Right.
And
And that right there was one of the many attempts at people who were just, we got to keep Gus because that's what we know, or even with Bo because that's what we know, is comparing what Gus did previously in the last year or two to what Harsin has done in year 1 and will do next year. I don't care that Gus came in and had a top 10 class 6 out of 8 years, because you know what was in those top 10 classes? A 5-star Calvin Ashley that never saw the field, a 5-star Byron Coward that did little to
transferred
nothing,
out.
And then
number one overall player in the country, Byron Coward, B.
Right.
And we know what those 5-star recruits do for that average class. That's how we snuck into the top 10 in those classes. We had a lot of guys, and we had one big get, like Carl Lawson was year 1. He was our big get, and he was actually worth the I was gonna say something. He was actually as good as Build, and that would made a difference. We didn't always keep the guys who boosted our class rankings, and even when we did, we were dismissing guys. Javon Robinson, 2014 or 15, and he didn't even get to play what would have been his best year on the field. He had a rough 2015 with everybody. He was gone 2016 because of some allegations, and all that blew up. We lost a tight end because of something similar. We lost a lot of talent in these so-called top 10 classes where effectively those were not top 10 classes because the guys either didn't stay, didn't play, or that's it. They either didn't stay or didn't play. So effectively, we didn't get those holes filled. We didn't fill these spots where we needed this help. We didn't have the depth that we should have had with those recruiting classes. We're overloading at defensive back, but we're struggling at offensive line for the last 6 years as far as recruiting goes. So there is a huge difference between high recruiting classes and effective recruiting to fill needs and get developed up to the point of playing up to the standard of the coach and of the league. We were not doing that before.
Effective roster management, is what we're talking about. Gus did a good job recruiting stars, but ultimately none of those stars actually, not none of them, but a lot of those stars didn't actually end up helping. Rock Thomas was another one, 5-star. 5-star running back. You know, and
transferred to Jacksonville State.
Yeah, I mean,
Yep.
we did this, Caesar. We did like a recruiting segment for the record where we talked about how many of those kids actually finished at Auburn that we recruited.
Right.
On
Right.
O-line. Like, yeah, we recruited them, but did they actually finish their career at Auburn? A staggering number of them did not.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it got difficult, you know, because it's again those classes looked good by the numbers, and a lot of people they only look at, you know, where we rank. That's the only number they care about. But when you start looking at the average star ranking, right, it's a different story. You know, by the average star ranking, Harsin has one of the best he has a top 10 class already by average star ranking. So this is a really good job. You know, we just need to look a little deeper as a fan base about what rankings are. Right. Yeah. There's another 5-star. And in reality, you know, how much did it help your team? You know, so you know, you gotta get
Craig Myers. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta get the Nate Craig Myers was another, you know, but I still think we ruined him.
Myers,
we ruined him.
Probably. Remember, it was him, Kyle Davis, and Marquise McLean. And that was a trio that Damian Craig had brought in. We were like, oh, buddy, we are in the money. These guys are going to be so dynamic. Kyle Davis didn't make it a full year. That was Nate Craig Myers rarely saw the field.
They threw, and when he did, they threw all around him. Never too long.
Yeah, I still think he could have been I was so excited when I saw his recruiting tape. He just looked like a dynamic player. And I mean, he scored a couple touchdowns here at Auburn, but I still think he was misused. You know, it just was, there were a lot of kids that we had high hopes for. That wide receiver class was the best in the nation too.
Yeah,
that was the number one wide receiver class in the nation we hauled in that year between Davis and Nate Craig Myers and the other kid. Like, wow, it was impressive. I was like, yeah, man, we need that. Let's go. We've been getting running backs. We haven't had an issue getting running backs. If you can get receivers to match, then maybe you have an average quarterback and we have a really good team.
Right.
You know, so I mean, I don't know. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about recruiting rankings and where we stand, and even for this coach to even get a top 20 class under the circumstances was going to be a pretty good job. Right. You know, so if you dig a little deeper and you look at his average star ranking, pretty good job. Right now, if he could just get some old linemen, phenomenal job.
Right.
That's how I felt. So
and again, we're still in it for quite a few guys. So it'll be interesting to see how we look come February for sure.
It ain't over.
Listen, Auburn's about to take the hardwood, man, in basketball. Bruce returns.
Yeah.
So how are we feeling about this game? Start with you, B. Will.
I know from betting for the last 10 years that St. Louis is sneakily a very good team every 2 or 3 years. They don't have, I think they are 7-3 right now. I have to check. I'm not absolutely sure. Basketball is so different.
7-3. You're right. They're 7-3.
Basketball is so different from football in the sense that it doesn't take 10 dynamic players to make a program go. You can give me 2, man. Two really good players on a team can make that team amazing. It can take a team from good to great. It can take a team from all right to really good. And when you have a program on a lower, I call it lower rung, but honestly, in basketball, the rungs don't really fall off like they do in football. So you have to have a coach. Usually this is how this works. So the A-10 and the Big East and the conference that Morehead State is in, they all have okay talent. Every now and then they get coaches that know how to develop basketball talent, period. They get their guys to stay because they're not going to get the pick of the litter when it comes.
Appreciate that, David.
Even better. So they're not going to get guys who are 1 and done or 2 and done. They're going to get guys who are 3 and 4 year starters. Because of that, you get a Loyola Chicago. That's how that team happens, because that coach is a good coach. He gets guys. He teaches them the game on a very high level. And if they stick around, that team is going to be good. Now, it's not going to be every year because they need that experience over years to kind of compensate for the physical talents that they don't have. But if a team is good, do not think that this has to be Kentucky for us to be worried about playing these guys on the road, because John Calipari is a great recruiter and a terrible coach. And I think that has bore itself out here over the last, 10 years or so. And on the lower, the other conferences, it is the complete opposite. There are great coaches with just okay talent. And that is scary to me. That's how Virginia loses as a 1 seed to a 16 seed. They don't have to have the best players. They just have to be the best coached and the most disciplined players. And they can catch you slipping, because that's the downside of having very talented but very young teams. Adversity can strike them. They can have an off night. They can be rattled on the road with somebody playing some ferocious defense and the refs not blowing the whistle at the right times. Now, all of a sudden, you feel like you're in a hole and you can't dig yourself out because you don't have the maturity to calm down and be able to play at the speed that the other team is playing you. I don't think we lose this game, but I would not be surprised to see this be a dog fight. St. Louis is a good team. Yeah. They don't have to have 6'6". LeBron James doesn't have to be on St. Louis. They don't have to have NBA starters everywhere to be a scary team, because this is college, man. College is basketball.
The parity in college basketball is crazy. It's crazy. Anyone can get it at any given night. So this is a team that I have seen make it to the tournament in recent years. So I know that they've played some good basketball. This is a good test. And again, I want to say kudos to Bruce Pearl for having our basketball team battle tested by the time the regular season gets here. And instead of just beating up on cupcakes, like, we're actually playing good teams. UConn was a good team.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I like that we're getting this experience playing teams like this for when we get into the conference play, man. So I'm curious to see how we look tonight. I'm curious to see how we play. We've had we beat up on we had a game early this week, so I'm curious to see how we bounce back and how we look on the road. This is actually one of our first road games in a while, so I'm curious to see how we look there, man. Yeah. So
let me ask you something about Bruce. Like, how much does having your head coach on the sideline in basketball matter? Right? Like, I mean, in football, I feel like sometimes the head coach misses a game. The offensive coordinator is still going to call plays. The defense coordinator is still going to call the defense. You know, I mean, if it's not a tight game, it doesn't matter. In this last basketball game, we saw them start a little slow, and then kind of pick it up. And I started wondering a little bit in that first half how much Bruce's absence on the sideline had an effect on that team. In the second half, they turned it up and ended up running them off the court. But, like, what kind of impact does your head coach have from the from the side court? I don't know, wherever he stands, right?
From the sidelines. I mean, because of who he is, it does play a factor, depending on the situation in the moment. They did start off a little slow against what was a very scrappy North Alabama team, but you typically get that with teams that play small ball. They're scrappy, and so I think with Bruce being on the sideline, being a high energy guy, those players feeding off of him, it matters. It matters just because we know the significance of Bruce. I mean, he's got some great assistants, but you need Bruce, in these big games. And so it's good to have him back for sure.
I'm with you, C. It depends on who the coach is, depending on how much their absence matters. If you've got a guy who's just an X's or O's guy, and he calls the sideline plays, and he just sits down and doesn't rah too much of his guys. Like, I don't think Frank Vogel being missing from the Lakers bench matters at all, because Frank Vogel, LeBron James is essentially the coach, and it doesn't matter that Frank Vogel is not there. Bruce is a different story, because his energy is pretty much the lifeblood of the program, the entire program. And not just when he's coaching games. He used to come out on the concourse and get people hyped up about going to the game that night. Bruce is just on go, and that matters he energizes and empowers his assistants. He energizes and empowers his players. Him not being there definitely makes a difference. But UNA actually had a very good defensive team. They have a good defensive team this year. Their defensive stats are very good for everybody against everybody that they played. So some of this was us seeing a team that probably played with more defensive effort than we had seen prior. And that's what some of that was. But as we have done for every second half this year, we come out, we turn it on, and we look like the better team for the rest of the way. So I'm glad that it didn't decide the game, Bruce not being there, which is a really good sign too, because if you come out and you're looking okay, well, we need eventually, it can't just be on the head coach to be the source of that energy. The players have to become, over the course of playing under that coach, they have to become a source of the energy as well. Like I remember Luke Deal came on and talked to us a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying, we asked him what was up with the slow starts in second half. He was like, honestly, we're just like a really high energy team, and after we kind of lost some momentum, like we lost some energy going into a halftime, even if we had played well in the first half. And it seems to be the opposite for Bruce and the boys. It's like, no, we get injected with energy, like we're on go after halftime. We start slow, and then it's like they're like, oh, really? That's how we doing it? Bet. It's like a challenge to them to come out and now outdo that energy. And having high energy guys like KD, it's like another power source out there. The coach is a power source, and KD is a power source, and eventually everybody gets infected with this energy over the course of the game, and we play great. So Bruce not being there mattered, but I don't think that was the game. There was too much of a talent gap for it to catch us on that game.
Right.
Yeah.
And his team is still figuring some stuff out too, because you got a lot of new pieces and guys learning how to play together. So I think that's a factor as well that can't be understated. What you about to say, Mike?
There's a lot of excitement around this basketball team. Has really brought a lot of life to campus. I've talked to a lot of people on campus right now. Every time there's a basketball game, whether home or away, there's a lot of excitement that's being generated about the efforts that they're doing in their non-conference schedule right now. So build some momentum going into your SEC schedule. I think our first SEC game is LSU, like the 29th or the 30th.
Somewhere in there.
Right before the turn of the new year. And they've got a real super big opportunity here to just kind of maybe go into SEC play with one loss. And make some noise early in the season. I feel like the last few even good basketball seasons that we've had, it's been mid-season turn up, where they find it, and this team seems to be finding themselves a lot faster than previous teams.
Which worries me a little bit, because I think best case is middle of the season, turn it on, and then you're peaking like SEC tournament time. To turn on sooner, I don't know for sure that it will have a negative effect, but I wonder, because then you kind of have to maintain this energy and this intensity for a longer time. And I think it's much easier to do if you 2 weeks before the tournament, guys, seeding's important. Now you have something to focus on, and you keep going. I think it's much easier to chase than to get chased with a bullseye on your back. But if the team is as good as we think it is and we hope it is, then that shouldn't matter, ultimately. But we hope that we'll have what we need to start fast, continue to be a hot team, and then go into the SEC tournament with a lot of stuff proven and still more to prove.
This team is dancing. This team is dancing this year. I think, barring a complete disaster, I think this team is dancing. There's a comment here by Michael Floyd. He says, I serve as vice president of the student section at Auburn U, and basketball is the most popular. Students line up 5+ hours before the doors open. Wow.
Crazy.
Now, Michael Floyd, I can tell you, we're part of an era where you'd have to pay somebody to take your tickets. Basketball was just not, they were giving them out. They were just doing anything they could to get anybody in the gymnasium to watch these guys.
Yeah, man.
And
we found out about games a day later.
Yeah, like, we had a basketball game last night.
So that has to be fun for you guys. Enjoy that, man.
The first basketball game I went to in 2019.
against Kentucky. We paid $175 for those tickets, and I was blown away that it cost that much to go to a basketball game. So, we've got a great opportunity here to bring, and you know what? The successes of the basketball team will help in recruiting, cross sports, right? The more positive energy that the university gets, the better it is for everybody.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
Agreed.
So, we have there's a guy in recruiting right now in football, Trey Donaldson. He's technically in our recruiting class as a safety, I think.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, but he signed his NLI with basketball prior.
Right. Yeah. So I don't think, we talked to Christian Clemente over at auburnsports.com, and he doesn't think that there's much of a chance that he plays one single down of football at Auburn. But the idea that they were talking to a lot of these kids and they're saying, I thought Auburn was a basketball school.
Yeah.
It's just
that's crazy. That's nuts. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of these recruits think Auburn's a basketball school. And so kudos to the development piece that Bruce Pearl has brought to this program, where now the expectation has risen. Right. And again, we talked about it on the football side, but I'm telling you, good coaches just understand every year he raises the floor of Auburn basketball to where, hey, we should be in the hunt for an SEC championship every year. Doesn't matter how many guys leave.
And when you have a down year like last year, it's an aberration. Like, that's what I want to get to, is when we have a down year, people know that was a one-off. We're going to be right back. And lo and behold, we appear to be right back in the thick of it this upcoming season. That's what a good coach does for your program, is that even when you have a down season due to extenuating circumstances, that this isn't the norm for us. We're usually winning. Right. So I'm happy to see that. Michael Floyd also says my freshman year, he lined up at 3 a.m. for an 11 p.m. tip-off.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That is insane.
What? Come on, man.
Could you imagine doing that? Like, they would have to be handing out PlayStations for us to line up for an Auburn game. Like we had the one year when we had the Sweet 16 year when we was at school. And we ended up losing to the eventual champions in Syracuse.
Yeah. Carmelo Anthony's year.
Yeah. Yeah. So we had Daniels on that team. So it was because I think he's on Bruce's staff now, I think.
Marquise Daniels?
Yeah.
He's
been on the staff for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, he's been on the staff now. He's on staff now with him. I know he was in the NBA for a little bit, but now he's coaching with Bruce. So
yes, sir.
Ben Bloodworth, I had design classes in Wallace Hall from 05 to 09 next to the arena, and we were all mad that the parking lot was closed for games because the lot was empty.
Yeah. Facts.
Yeah, those were some dark years. Those 05 to 09.
Who was our coach? Were those the Tony Barbie years?
He was there on the latter part, I want to say. Was Cliff still there? Cliff was there still.
It was what's his name? His name is right there on the tip of my tongue. He went to Eastern Carolina after he left Auburn.
I know you're talking
his
about.
name.
Help us out in the chat.
Lebo.
Help us out.
Lebo?
Jeff Lebo.
Jeff
Lebo. Yes. You got it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, those were the beginning of some of the dark ages. But man, it's a good question.
That's how you know it was dark, because we like, who was the coach then?
You're right.
Where is Chris Porter? I
don't
know. Listen, 99 Sports Illustrated, Chris Porter on the cover. I'll never forget this. 99 was my sister's freshman year at Auburn, and Auburn was a preseason number 1 that year. We were preseason number 1. And then Porter got busted with weed, and everything just fell apart after that.
Yeah.
You're right. So it was interesting. Like, he was dynamic. I think they did a whole special on what happened to him. Couldn't stay out of trouble. Yeah, couldn't stay out of trouble. So, you know, that was so what again, what Bruce is doing, what Bruce Pearl is doing is insanely awesome. Right at Auburn with Auburn basketball, and
He is reloading, is what he's doing.
Can this be okay? So I know we've been on for a little bit, and the basketball game's getting ready to start, but I have to ask this question because some of our favorite writer trolls for Auburn basketball, it's Pat Forty and Jeff Goodman.
Yeah,
right. Somebody started floating out there. Well, now the question is, since this is clear, does Bruce go to Maryland? I'm like, what is anybody even thinking about that? But he was trying to sell the idea. Chat, I really want y'all to jump in here on this. That Maryland is a better job than Auburn. Now, I know they're kind of like a traditional ACC power, but can that still be true? Can Maryland be a better job than Auburn?
And so this is what's changed about basketball.
Are they still?
Is it doesn't matter what your school used to be good at. UNC's not good. It doesn't matter what your school used to be good. Now, that might determine how much effort and resources people in schools are willing to put into a program, which does matter.
Right.
However, once we made a commitment to being better at basketball, we got the best coach we could find. We built a brand new arena as a commitment to being excellent at basketball, and the resources have jumped up. Everything jumps up once you decide you're going to be good at it. It's about where you are, because the best coach, this is a prime example. I was had a little back and forth with somebody on Twitter, the American Pastime, about whether or not Mario Cristobal would leave to go to Miami. And he thought because, well, Oregon's got better facilities, they've got more recent success, and there is nothing that a good coach can't duplicate at another place. It's about the coach. If you go and you get the program on track, any school is going to build you whatever you want. You are the thing that makes that place go. If Bruce is here and he has the facilities, he has the reputation, we're getting and mining the Atlanta area for talent. We've got the staff. We've got Flanagan and Marquise Daniels as alum and a former pro. If you've got the coaches, you're getting the talent, you got the facilities, and now you have the brand name that Auburn has become, getting a one and done like Jabari Smith. The table is set. There's no reason, there's no advantage to going anywhere just because they used to be a good program. The last time we got on the floor with a bunch of used to be a good programs in the tournament, we ran through like 4 of them.
Yeah,
so what's it matter?
Right.
That's
it doesn't matter how much did that history help UNC or Kentucky when we got on the floor against them.
No, man, that's a fact. What was it? It was 3 straight blue bloods or something. The 3 winningest.
We beat
Kansas,
Kentucky to
Kansas,
win
North
the
Carolina.
conference. Yeah.
And
North Carolina, Kansas, North Carolina, and I think it was Kentucky.
And they care way more about basketball than we have over the last 30 years. And what did it matter when we had the coach with the guys? Not at all.
That's very
right
true.
Now. We've got the coach and the guys.
That would have been because see, here's the thing. This would have been a conversation if Bruce was in year 2 at Auburn and he was still trying to turn things around. He got the program right where he wants it now.
Exactly. It's never going to be easier than what he can say now to a recruit within 300 miles of Auburn and say, hey, man, this is what you're going to get. This is what it's going to look like. This is how it's going to work.
So let me ask you this then. Because the other point that was being made by the gentleman that I referenced was that the DMV, which coincidentally is where I live now, the DC, Arlington, Maryland kind of area is a more fertile recruiting ground than the closest fertile recruiting ground that we have, which is technically Atlanta for basketball. Mm-hmm. And I've always thought that was a little overblown as well, too.
It is.
But how much of proximity to these fertile recruiting grounds makes one job more attractive to another at this point?
Why does UGA suck? And we recruit way better than them if proximity to that Atlanta talent matters so much. It does not. It's about the guy and the facilities. And if you've got the right guy and facilities, everything else is going to follow. He's got everything.
And if that's the case, why does Maryland suck?
Right.
Exactly. All that talent, Maryland must be. Hey, they must be.
That's a very good point.
Flooded with talent, right?
Well, a very good point. Yeah. So any coach should be able to go there, right? Pick up some of that talent around there, and then they should be good.
Right.
Yeah. Now that's a
Obviously.
very good point. That's a very good point. What Big Gap wants to know, what would it take to make AAU a Nike Jordan brand school? I've heard this. I've seen this comment on Twitter like a million times in the last week about wanting to move away from Under Armour and just, get to literally anything else. But making us a Jordan brand school, the good old boys gonna let that happen?
Right. I don't know. We're still under. Okay, so the Under Armour contract is expected to expire soon.
Okay, so maybe that's why
it
this is coming up.
Yeah, we're not too far away. I guess they would have to start deciding. I think I saw this report. They already decided they're not going to renew with Under Armour. That decision has already been made.
Well, I think Under Armour's been trying to end their relationships. Either they're trying to get out of it, whatever it is they set out to do years ago. Yeah, they're trying to leave that.
Yeah, because they have been taking a lot of the benefit we got in the Under Armour deal was a lot of stock that has since tanked, so it's not worth nearly as much. And so it's not a fruitful deal for us. Under Armour has been losing money on their apparel, on their sports apparel. So they want to kind of get out of the game.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be a good move for both people to get away. I just don't know where we go next. Who was the last? I think last was it Reebok last? Who was it before Under Armour?
Russell.
Really?
Russell Athletics.
Russell.
Yeah, because they have a plant on the way up 280 on the way to
right. That's right.
Yeah, Russell Athletic, and that we had a relationship with the family that owned Russell Athletic, so it was interesting that when that ended, did we go to Under Armour after Russell?
We went to Under Armour right afterwards.
Yeah, when did Under Armour happen? Was that before Cam?
Like
or after Cam?
5,
that was like 5. I want to say.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah, 5 or 6 because I think it was 6 actually. Because I remember Al Borges' wife negotiated that because you remember she used to work with Auburn and worked on that deal.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I just was looking at that. I'm like, well, how much is a kid really looking at Auburn and thinking they're a Nike school, so I'm going there? Like,
no,
right.
I always thought that was kind of over. I mean, and I'm glad that Bruce came in because he has pretty much dispelled that myth that in order for Auburn to be able to compete, we have to leave Under Armour or become a Nike brand school.
Mm-hmm.
He's shut that down.
Yeah. Well, part of that is that now that NIL is a real thing. So all of the as Jimbo said when he was talking recruiting, he was like, we've always had NIL, it's just legal now. So the part that wasn't legal was still happening on the football and the basketball front. And so those basketball schools, it made a big difference for those basketball school the apparel makers to have really good players in their gear. And now
I remember that commercial.
I don't remember this.
Yeah, Tuberville was screaming because he was locked arms, screaming click clack.
He used to walk out with the players locked arms.
Yeah.
It's coming back. It's coming back to me. It's coming back to me. Oh, please let that still be on YouTube.
Now I'm gonna go look for it for sure.
Yeah, click clack commercial.
Appreciate that, Sanford.
Yeah, man. But yeah, the whole advantage of those Nike schools and I guess Jordan brand schools being the advantage, it doesn't matter too much, man. It doesn't matter as much as now. Are you going to make me better for the league? We've got guys going to the league every single year. 2 guys last year going to the league. So now we're on a path where it doesn't matter what shoes you wear. You can get your shoe deal as soon as you get to the league because you're going to go to the league if you come here and you put in your time. So that's the most important thing. And we got that going. So
Indeed. Well, listen, we're about
click clack commercials are tripping me out. Click clack. What kind of man? Listen, I want to be the person who got paid for coming up with that. I do remember right now. It's coming back to me. Tuberville locked arms with people. Click clack. Tommy T.
I think the hero's coming.
I know, right? Oh my goodness.
Click clack.
Oh man, a big gap. Kind of wish Barker still had his Nike Force brand going. That would have been dope.
Hey, listen, it is what it is, man. It is what it is. I think that you're using a lot of creative tools to try to get kids to sign at this point. And part of partnering with these different companies will be about our willingness to be able to make jersey modifications, and especially on the football side, right? Like the orange face masks were sick.
The white ones too.
They were dope, right? The stormtroopers.
Yeah.
And if you can make, some keep the traditional feel, this is a very divisive topic amongst the fan base, but if you can keep a traditional feel, but still add some swag to the uniforms, it does become a really cool recruiting tool. Because these kids, they dress up in their jerseys and they see themselves as what they would be if they signed at that conference.
Sure.
I mean, Auburn's marketing campaign for the recruits. I don't know if you saw the little Twitter videos, the little 7 snippets, right? They were really dope. And it ended with their signature, and they were posing in Auburn gear, like wow, right? So helping them being able to visualize themselves as what they will be is. Uniforms play a part in that, and then you have to partner with a company that can help you conceptualize that vision and then sell it to a recruit.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see where Auburn. The more you win, though, the more it opens doors for things like this.
Right. On-field product.
Mm-hmm.
Or in this case, on-court product. That's it. If you can get that up, a lot of other things become possible, whether you are a traditional powerhouse or not.
Yeah, for sure.
Big gap before we get out of here, man. Roman Harper said the reason he signed with Bama was because they were a Nike school and AU was Russell Athletic. Hey, that was a deal. That was a deal back then for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Roman Harper, he was underrated. He was underrated. And he's pretty good on it. Is he still on the SEC network?
He is.
Yeah.
He actually called. The homer called that Georgia was going to get upset, but he was right. He said they don't really have a pass rush. They can stop you from moving the ball, but they can't rush the passer. And sure enough, I'm gonna trust the guy that won a Super Bowl and played in the league for 12 years, and he was right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
James Stallings got one here. Shout out to the women's basketball team.
Balling.
I saw Ike in the chat here earlier. He tweeted about this. He said quietly they've got some momentum going in women's basketball right now as well too. So I went over to check. They do. We have a first-year head coach over there.
Yeah,
and she is changing culture. I watched the video of them celebrating her first win as coach. Her players. She seems to be loved by her players already. It is exciting time in Auburn sports to see the reformation of all these things led by our basketball team, but our women's basketball team. How awesome would it be to have 2 tournament teams come March?
Yeah, that would be
the
cool.
right coach makes all the difference, man.
2 tournament teams come March. Come on, man. Let's go. Let's get this thing going.
Sure. Well, listen, man, let's get on out of here. Mike G, you want to tell people what they need to become, sir?
Yeah, listen, man. At the end of the day, what it comes down to, win or lose, become an insider. Now, I know you guys have been told by some other people that this might be about insider information. It's not about insider information. This is about just joining a community of people who've decided that the War Report is worth a monthly commitment, financial commitment. This commitment that you guys make, it helps us be able to bring you even more content. So we're doing kind of a War Report special live today. The more of you that join up, the more of these we can do. So we can dedicate more time and resources toward making content for you guys. So I appreciate everybody who joined in. Over 300 people on a random live that we scheduled just like an hour or two ago is amazing. So support that. Listen, also support the Lee County Humane Society. You can find this link in the About section of our YouTube channel. 50 cents on every dollar goes to the Lee County Humane Society to help them in their mission to #save all the puppies. You can also support our content by buying merch from our merch store. You can find this link in the About section of our YouTube channel. We appreciate everybody who goes there. Get yourself some War Report gear. Post some pictures on social media. Rep Kate for the War Report, and then shout out to our content creator community. Zach Blackerby over at Locked On Auburn, Chase, our boy Chase Holden over at Infinite Auburn, And our guy Vernon Kennard Stewart over at Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn. Those guys are working real hard to bring you guys a different perspective and make sure that you have something Auburn to listen to every single day. I'm excited about some of the stuff that Chase has coming. And Zach is building every day over at Locked On Auburn. We're on his podcast every Wednesday for War Report Wednesday. So check us out there as well.
Appreciate that. And I saw, I can't find it now, but someone posted about a Virginia double dribble shirt. I may have to pass that idea along to Ike and maybe send a free one to Corey Weber for even starting that.
Yeah.
So I like that idea. But guys, listen, Auburn's about to take the court soon. So we'll be back tomorrow.
Sports Network.
CBS Sports Network at 8
where it's on,
p.m. Central Time. CBS Sports Network. We'll be back tomorrow, hopefully talking about another Auburn dub and breaking it down. So you guys definitely want to catch us at our usual time on Sunday, 1 p.m. Central Time, 2 Eastern Time. Guys, please be sure, share this video on your social medias as always. Help us out, help us find people, help us grow our community. Like and subscribe, as I mentioned earlier, guys. And also, you know where to find us on social media. The War Report on Twitter and Instagram. We are TW Report on TikTok. Guys, appreciate you hanging out with us on a Saturday. You guys have to enjoy the rest of your Saturday weekend. We'll see you tomorrow. War Eagle.
War Eagle.
War Eagle.